Evening, I'm Spot On Weather meteorologist Matthew Euler. Happy holidays to everybody, first of all. I figured we'd start doing some Christmas themed pictures here on the opening slides. Here's some nice ornaments on hanging from a tree. Yeah, so happy holidays to everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful holiday season at this point. We're going to go ahead and take a look here on my forecast update for the 6th of December 2024. It is crazy, folks. I mean, we're coming up on Christmas rather quickly here and the new year. Before you know it, it'll be 2025 and we'll be delving into the month of January. So let's take a look and see what we have tonight for you. First of all, we're going to do a look at the stratospheric polar vortex. There's kind of two parts to that, and I'll get into that here in a moment. Additionally, we'll look at the quasi-biennial oscillation, the QBO. We'll check the status of that and how it's doing. The sea surface temperature anomalies globally, we'll examine those. And then we'll look at the teleconnections, the various forecasts from the EPS extended, as well as the JEFs. So we'll examine all the teleconnections here listed there, and then we'll look at the modeling, the latest modeling output, and then I'll give you my final thoughts like usual at the end of the video. All right, before I get into the polar vortex, the stratospheric polar vortex update, let's examine December of 2024 so far. And this is pretty impressive, everybody. For us in the East, let's admit, it's been a while since we've seen this kind of cold start to December, right? Look at all the purple shading from basically Iowa, Illinois, Missouri east, all the way over to the East Coast, the Mid-Atlantic, all the way down the Southeast Coast, all the way down to you in Atlanta, to you in Birmingham, down to the Florida Panhandle, as well as the Gulf Coast of Mississippi, honestly, and then deep down into Florida. These mean temperatures are really running well below normal due to three consecutive Arctic shots of air in a reloading pattern. Just impressive. You can clearly see where all the warmer, milder temperatures above normal have been out west of the Rocky Mountains, indicated by the orange coloring here. So quite a divide. And I kind of got at this last week in my video, but let me just do this real quick. You could clearly see the path of the Arctic air, right? It's basically been doing this. And we have had Arctic high after Arctic high just follow this jet stream right on down into the eastern U.S. Follow this upper trough right on in. This is the trajectory of the air masses, though, with cross-polar flow. And this runs through to yesterday, December 5th. This was through yesterday, December 5th, 2024, well below normal. I figured I would start off with that this evening on the video. Let's continue now. Whoop. All right. So now let's get into the stratospheric polar vortex and let's see what our friend is doing up in the stratosphere right now. Okay, so on the left here, this is, I apologize for being old, but there is no new update to this since the 4th of December, but it generally gets after the point I want to make tonight in the video. Now, this is the zonal mean zonal winds in the stratosphere, basically about at the 60 degrees north latitude line, okay? So well up to the north, right? This is the winds. All right, now each of these different color lines represent different forecast models, and I'll show you what those models are in a moment in the next slide. But just keep in mind that the stronger these winds get, in other words, the stronger they increase, so the higher they get, you can see the values over here on the left, 15 to 55 meters per second. The stronger this wind speed gets in the stratosphere above 60 degrees north latitude, the stronger the stratospheric polar vortex, okay? So for example, you can see back in late November, the zonal mean zonal winds were about 36 meters per second. And then as we progressed into, let's say, the 1st of December here, we see that, the winds increased from late November to the 1st of December. You can see how the line is going upward, right? Increasing wind speeds. And then it kind of leveled off the speeds, still kind of leveled off, maybe a little bit of a slight increase, 12.8 to 12.9 coming up. But then you notice these lines start going down, right? So the wind speeds in the stratosphere at 60 degrees north are starting to decrease or decelerate in wind speed. And whenever that occurs, that is an indicator that the stratospheric polar vortex may be weakening, okay? One other point I wanted to make on this one is there's going to be a wide range of possibilities the further out into the future we get. So you notice how the orange line, green line, magenta line, and this lighter blue line, how they're spread far apart. This indicates a greater level of uncertainty or differences in what the wind speeds are going to do up in the stratosphere, okay, between the, let's say, the 15th of December and the 20th December. This goes out to the 20th of December, all right? So as of right now, we have a fairly strong stratospheric polar vortex right on through the 10th of December here. And then we see some potential weakening as these winds start to slow down a little bit. These westerly winds in the stratosphere above 60 degrees north. I'm not showing you a negative wind speed scale, right? Because the winds are fairly strong. But if these winds were to drop off, let's say, below the positive values, that would indicate a potential reversal of the winds from westerly to easterly in association with a major sudden stratospheric warming event. So just hopefully you understand this now a little bit better. I try to break these things down in my videos so you at home can understand this, whether you have a background in meteorology or not. My ultimate goal in these videos is to help teach you something, and also in the process you learn something from it, and hopefully it's more easily digestible. All right, now over here on the right, we see this is, these white solid lines again are the height lines, lines of equal height, okay? Lines of equal geopotential height are these white lines. All right, on the right-hand image here. And then the blue coloring indicates colder stratospheric temperatures. The yellows, the mustards, and greens indicate milder stratospheric temperatures, okay? So as you can see right now, based on the orientation of these white height lines, we see a little bit of an elongation or a stretching out of this stratospheric polar vortex. Now, where is the center of the polar vortex right now? And I'm going to do that. I'm going to make an X where that is. It's going to be right here. That's the center of the stratospheric polar vortex, and you can see the elongation of the white lines, these height lines, in both directions, right? And that indicates a stretching out of the stratospheric polar vortex, and that's as of today, the 6th of December. Let's move ahead now in time. On the right here, I'll start on the right on this slide. Notice now how the center of your polar vortex is here at this location. And notice how the lines are they're starting to get more concentric or round, right? Not as much elongation like that, right? So the polar vortex, generally, according to this model output here on the right, is generally going to remain fairly strong right on through the 13th of December. You will notice this yellow coloring over here. In the top right portion of the graphic on the right, that indicates stratospheric warming starting to happen, right? You can clearly see the scale here. This is the temperature scale here on the right. You see that the blue colors generally indicate stratospheric temperatures anywhere from negative 65 degrees Celsius all the way down to negative 90 degrees Celsius. Whereas the yellow and orange and brighter oranges, that represents warming temperatures going from negative 50 and warming to negative 30 degrees Celsius, okay? Now over here on the right, we are showing you the stratospheric temperature forecast now. And what we're looking for a strengthening stratospheric polar vortex is we are looking for these temperatures to be cooler. So if you look at this on this y-axis on the left, from 195 to 220 Kelvin, that's your temperature unit, Kelvin. If these lines, these model lines, were to, let's say, go further down, that indicates that generally is going to indicate some of the cooling effects. Whereas if these lines go upward, that is going to indicate stratospheric warming. Okay, so when the lines go up, we have stratospheric warming. When lines go down, we have stratospheric cooling. All right, so let's examine things. Now, you kind of see how these lines, now, by the way, these are the models here. The orange line is GFS. The purple line is GEOS. The green line is the JEPS ensemble average. The CMC JEPS ensemble average is like this lighter blue line. The FINMOC EFS, Ensemble Forecasting System, Ensemble averages the magenta line, and so on, okay? So you notice in late November, we had the temperatures going from, say, 203 Kelvin down to 200 Kelvin, right? So a little bit more cooling, and then we go up and then straight, and it's generally flattened between 12.5 and 12.10. But then we see a warming process starting to take place here between the 12th and the 20th of December. We're starting to see these lines work their way upward into the warming. So see how we're increasing the value from 210 to 215 to 220 Kelvin? That is a warming process, right? We're increasing the temperature. All right, we're not decreasing it and getting cooler, we're going upward. So this area right here, now this is again from the 4th of January, Zach D. Lawrence, stratobserve.com. But this right here is indicative of potential stratospheric warming. Now, the models are going to not, there's going to be lower confidence further out in time, similar to the zonal mean zonal wind chart we looked at. So you notice how the lines are spread out much greater, much more different here as compared to here where they're more tightly clustered. So this is going to be higher confidence here when they're more tightly clustered, the models, and this is going to be minus C or less confidence over here. But in general, we're seeing an upward trend out of all the models to varying degrees of warming stratospheric temperatures. Now, this could potentially weaken the stratospheric polar vortex over time, and I'm going to show you a graphic later on in this presentation that's going to show those models in a little different another different method. We'll take a look at those. Now let's examine the QBO, the quasi-biennial oscillation, and let's see what's going on with it right now. We're still sitting in a westerly phase QBO, all right? And again, just as a reminder, during westerly QBO winters, the majority of those winters, you're going to have westerly QBO is associated with a stronger stratospheric polar vortex, which would mean that the coldest air will remain up over the Arctic and the mid-latitudes will have a fairly mild winter whenever that stratospheric polar vortex is strong. Over here on the right, again, just like last week in the video, the brown shading here represents westerly winds and a positive QBO. The E letter here represents easterly QBO and negative winds, easterly winds. So I want you to think of that. Now we're looking at the stratospheric winds over the equator, by the way. So whenever you see the E, that indicates a easterly wind over the equator. Whenever you see the W, that's a westerly wind over the equator. So the wind direction reverses in a very cycle pattern here, going all the way back to 1980. You can see how you had the warm descending phase of the QBO, right? Westerly winds over the equator in the stratosphere, then it went to easterly QBO, westerly QBO, easterly QBO. It's a fairly regular occurrence of how the QBO fluctuates from easterly to westerly winds. Moving ahead now to the sea surface temperature anomalies on a global scale. Really not much change from last week's video. We still have much above normal water temperatures in the northwestern Pacific here, east of Japan. Also across the north central Pacific, very warm temperatures, well above normal water temperatures there. We also see well above normal temperatures just to the northwest of Australia in the southern hemisphere. We also see well above normal water temperatures just off the coast of Sydney, right on over to New Zealand, in between New Zealand and the southeast coast of Australia. We see above normal water temperatures to the southeast of Madagascar. And then we see above normal water temperatures there over the North Atlantic to the southeast of Prince Edward Island. We see below normal water temperatures in the blue colors, and we see that clearly across the eastern and central equatorial area. We do see below normal water temperatures in the Gulf of Alaska. We see below normal water temperatures just off of the Baja, Southern California, Baja area. We also see below normal water temperatures generally to the west of the west coast of South America too. All right, now let's compare the Nino region water temperature anomalies. This is the CDAS Nino 1+2 index. Now look over here in the upper right. I broke down the locations. I'm showing you where Nino 1+2 is, that box, where Nino 3 is, that box. And then you combine the Nino 3 and Nino 4 areas into one, and you get Nino 3.4. And these two or this big long rectangular box, and then you get the Nino 4 area. So starting off here, just right off the immediate coast of South America, and then 1+2 area, the Nino 1+2 region, you see that, temperatures kind of dropped off and now they're kind of rising a little bit, warming a little bit again. The current value is minus 0.39 degrees Celsius, okay, for the water temperature anomaly there off the immediate coast, west coast of South America. Over here in the bottom right, we have the Nino 3. That Nino 3, the water temperature anomalies for that is ranging right now at about minus 0.868 Celsius. And then we look at the Nino 3.4 region, and the water temperature anomaly is minus 0.92 degrees Celsius. And by the way, this Nino 3.4 region remains slightly cooler than this Nino 3 area. All right, so Nino 3 and Nino 3.4 are the coolest regions right now as far as water temperatures go, have the coolest waters. And then this one now, further west in that Nino 4 box now, look what's happening here by this blue line. You clearly see a crashing or a fairly dramatic cooling since November 22nd to December 6th today of those water temperatures. Now they're down to minus 0.64 degrees Celsius there in the Nino 4 region, further to the west. Moving on now to the teleconnection, let's examine these now. The PNA, Pacific North American pattern, the green line is the line I want you to pay attention to. That's the average of all these 50 ensemble members. This is the 15-day forecast based on model data of the EPS this morning at 00Z, and it goes all the way out to the 21st of December, the winter solstice. So the average of all the ensembles is a green line. So you notice today on the 6th of December, we have a positive PNA with higher than normal heights across western US up to western Canada. That is going to get closer to neutral by the 8th and 9th of December, go up slightly positive again there until about the 12th, then drop negative from the 12th right on through about the 17th. And then it's going to go positive again from the 17th to the 21st of December. At least the PNA, according to this model, is going to do that. Look at the European EPS, 50 perturb members, 46-day forecast. This was initialized 00Z the 5th of December 2024, showing that positive of the PNA getting close to neutral, go back positive, and then drops negative briefly, then goes back positive right on through the end of December, and then just slightly negative and then more sharply negative into January according to the 46-day EPS. The NOAA JEFS V12 PNA forecast showing a positive value to the PNA initially through the 8th of December. Comes down closer to neutral briefly, but then again it goes back up to slightly positive right on through the 12th of December, dropping negative right through the 16th of December, and then becoming positive again the 16th to the 22nd of December. Looking at the NAO now, the EPS, NAO 50 perturb members, this is showing the NAO to be fairly neutral today on the 6th of December, dropping negative right on through the 13th. It becomes close to neutral by the 14th of December, and then it goes positive. The NAO goes positive from the 14th right on to about the 20th, and then becomes more neutral. According to the European EPS, 50 perturb member, 46-day forecast, the NAO, or North Atlantic Oscillation, is slightly positive today, and then it drops negative right on through about the 14th of December, then goes positive briefly, and then comes back towards neutral conditions through. This one goes all the way out. The 46-day forecast goes all the way out to about the 17th to the 18th of January. Looking at the JEFS V12 NAO 30 perturb members, this is the JEFS forecast for the NAO. Generally neutral today, dropping negative right on through the 14th of December, slightly positive, then back towards neutral through the 22nd of December. The AO now, let's examine the Arctic Oscillation. Now let me see here. I want to make sure of something here. I'm okay. I want to make sure I did that right. All right, so the Arctic Oscillation, this is the EPS, AO, 50 perturb member, 15-day forecast. Notice how the AO is fairly neutral today on the 6th of December, dropping negative right on through about the 13th of December, then going positive through about the 18th for a 5-day period, and then more neutral from the 18th to the 21st of December. Looking at the European EPS, 50 perturbed member, 46-day forecast for the EPS, fairly neutral AO today, dropping negative. Right on through to about the 15th of December, it goes back towards neutral, then drops negative again for an extended period into early January for the AO, and then neutral conditions ensue 6 to 11 January before going slightly negative again. Looking at the Jeffs V12 AO 30 perturbed member forecast 16 days out into the future to the 22nd of December, fairly neutral today and dropping negative with the AO all the way through about the 14th of December, neutral briefly on the 15th, and dropping negative again for the rest of the period, really through the 22nd of December. Now let's examine the EPO, the Eastern Pacific Oscillation, which played a large role in this recent cold weather pattern for the eastern U.S. We see a neutral Eastern Pacific Oscillation, EPO, today going slightly positive, and then it drops down to sharply negative between the 8th and the 11th of December. Now, let me just explain this. The EPO, when it's positive, okay, when it's positive, it's generally milder in the eastern U.S. When the EPO is negative, it's generally colder in the eastern U.S. So we have a nice little drop again coming up here, the EPO 8 to 11 December. Then it goes back positive again, which would indicate a milder period right on through the 14th of December before becoming neutral through the 21st of December. The European EPS 50 perturbed member 46-day forecast shows a negative EPO today, going up closer to neutral, 7th to 8th of December, then dropping sharply negative like what we just saw on the regular EPS model, all the way through about the 12th of December, going positive, back down negative, positive, and back and forth it goes. And then it becomes slightly positive right on through about 11 January, and then it kind of straddles that neutral line. And then finally, the Jeffs V12 EPO, Eastern Pacific Oscillation, 30 perturbed member, 16-day forecast, showing a slightly positive tendency today of the EPO. And then it drops negative as well on the Jeffs forecast from the 8th right onto the 11th, and then goes positive after that through about the 13th. Stays slightly positive through, all the way through the 17th, and still is positive all the way to the 20th of December before getting back to neutral conditions, according to the Jeffs V12 model. Now, as far as the Madden-Julian oscillation, let's examine that. We selected a couple of the models to kind of show you what the tendency is. Right now, today, we are on the 6th of December, so we're just entering phase 5. Okay, right now, today. Now, this is the Jeffs V12 bias corrected on the left. But we're generally into phase 5 today, and we're kind of going to move around phase 5 for a bit. This model, the Jeffs V12 bias corrected, is forecasting MJO phase 5 to last all the way to the 18th of December before it moves into phase 6. The European bias corrected model here on the right also shows us entering MJO phase 5. We're into it now here on the 6th of December, and also very similar track into phase 5 and kind of hanging out there for a while. By the time we get to the 20th of December, it just gets out into a weaker phase 6, according to the European bias corrected model. If we look at the last one, I'm going to show you the CFS V2 extended bias corrected here on the right. It's a fairly strong magnitude here. The further away you get from the center of the MJO phase diagram, the stronger the potential impacts for MJO and that tropical convection. So we're seeing it entering in, but we're basically in phase 5 on the CFS V2 extended bias corrected model as well. And then we kind of go out a little bit stronger with this MJO into phase 5 all the way to the 18th of December. And then it rotates into phase 6. And by Christmas Eve, we're on that border between phase 6, phase 7. And then by around New Year's Eve, just short of that, it's rotating back around into weak phase 7, heading towards this null phase. So why do we care about where the MJO is located right now, where that convection is located in the tropical areas in the Pacific and the Indian Ocean, is because it has an impact, believe it or not, on the weather downstream in the U.S. during the winter. And here are the temperature composites on the left. Orange is above normal temperatures, blue is below normal temperatures. So this is temperature composites with different MJO phases. Phases go from 1 to phase 8 for the months of November, December, January. So Right now, what do we say today we are in? We're in phase five. So what does phase five do for us this time of year? Fairly mild. Fairly mild across much of the United States, actually, in phase five. And then what would phase six do to us? Potentially, if it was strong in magnitude, pretty much all the United States is well above normal in temperatures. But the warmest above normal readings are going to be from eastern Nebraska, eastern Kansas, and Oklahoma, eastward to Iowa, Illinois, and Indiana and Kentucky, the Midwest area. Still very mild all the way to the East Coast and up to New England at MJO Phase 6. Now, what would happen if we got into this Phase 7, like the CFS extended bias corrected is indicating? It would start cooling down. It would start cooling down in the east. It would start cooling down in the northern plains. The Midwest would be cooling down if we get into this Phase 7 in late December, that last week or so of December. So we'll have to watch this closely. Now, I will say this, the holy grail of MJO, if you want winter weather in the east, you want phase 8. Even phase 1 is pretty good this time of year. So 8 is the holy grail. I would say a second best choice would be phase 1 for winter weather in the eastern U.S. All right, so this is not what I meant to leave on here, everybody. What in the world? Okay, and my apologies for this. This was last week. This was a slide from last week with the Thanksgiving forecast, and yeah, it was a pretty nasty day for the Macy's Day Parade there. I was concerned about that last week, and sure enough, that low pressure was situated right south of Long Island, south of New York City, and it was raining during the parade. All right, we will forget about Thanksgiving now since that's behind us. Let's move forward now to this weekend, the weekend of Saturday, 7 December and Sunday, 8 December. We kind of have a split weekend in store here across the eastern U.S., right? The graphic here on the left is the European 2-meter temperature anomalies in degrees Fahrenheit. And so blue and green is below normal, and this maroon and the orange colors are above normal, okay? You see the values of how much above normal some of these locations are, or below normal in the blue and green the locations are. So for tomorrow, the 7th of December, we're still running 9 to 11 degrees below normal tomorrow afternoon across the Carolinas up to Virginia. Also well below normal across northern Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. Well below normal in northern Florida. Another chilly day tomorrow on the 7th of December. Jacksonville, right on down to around the Orlando area. And also remain chilly along the Gulf Coast as well if you've got outdoor plans tomorrow. Much above normal from Iowa, Minnesota, the Dakotas, and Nebraska, Montana, and Wyoming. We're talking anywhere from 15 to 20 degrees, in some cases in Montana, in excess of 20 degrees Fahrenheit above normal for tomorrow. Pay attention to this warmer area because it's heading east. And by Sunday, you can see some of that warmer air has spilled over the Appalachian Mountains right all the way to the East Coast. And so, it's going to be a milder Sunday as compared to Saturday. You see how much above normal things are really in the Midwest and the Northern Plains states for this Sunday, the 8th of December. But yeah, we're running milder now across Virginia, the Carolinas. All that cooler than normal air is now being replaced by warmer than normal air. What does the EPS 500 millibar height anomalies look like for this weekend? Saturday, the 7th of December is over here on the left. And this purple and green coloring is the trough, and it's moving out. It's moving away from the coast, East Coast. And we're seeing some rising heights. Rising heights in this orangish color here, the deeper orange color here, across Iowa, Minnesota, Dakotas, Nebraska, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, and Nevada, and Utah, and Colorado. This is going to continue to spread eastward. And here it is on the right. Notice now how the blue colors that were on the immediate coast on Saturday, the lower heights, lower than normal heights, are now replaced by above normal heights. Rising heights, weak ridging moving into the East Coast for Sunday, the 8th of December. Green has the lowest heights, and it's well to the north now. Lower than normal heights, this green coloring and blue coloring indicates colder than normal temperatures. But you see the brighter oranges here, those indicate above normal or milder temperatures. They're above normal heights. Moving on now to the Jeffs 500 millibar height anomalies. We're comparing the EPS versus the Jeffs for this weekend. Jeffs 500 millibar height anomalies on the left for Saturday, the 7th of December. Very similar positioning of your upper trough. pivoting out and away towards the Canadian Maritimes. And then you got milder air, higher than normal heights starting to build in from the west. And by Sunday, you see the results. We have weak ridging across the Ohio Valley working its way east. That surface high pressure, the Arctic high that's currently in control to the west of us, west of the mid-Atlantic, is going to be moving offshore by late Sunday, and that is going to result in the winds turning around more to the southwesterly direction late Sunday, definitely Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. These are the Jeff's temperature anomalies now. I want to show you what the GFS ensemble, the global ensemble forecasting system rather, what the temp anomalies look like. This is Saturday on the left, according to Jeff's. Green colors and blues below normal temperatures. Here's the scale if you want to take a look at it. Anything in brown or the deeper hues of this orange are well above normal temperatures. So you see where the mildest temperatures are located in northern plains to the central U.S. for Saturday, tomorrow, the 7th of December, 2024. And over here on the right, look what happens. Some of that milder air, those orange colors, bleed on in from the west all the way to the coast of Virginia by Sunday. So yeah, you're going to need that coat tomorrow if you live anywhere in the mid-Atlantic, generally anywhere in the east, Florida right on up the coast, New England. You'll need that coat tomorrow, but by Sunday, especially in the southeast and mid-Atlantic, you might only need that coat in the morning with morning lows in the 30s, and you'd probably be able to shed that coat to something lighter at least in the afternoon on Sunday. The weekend overall is looking dry. We have no rain coming in. Now let's go a little bit further into the future and look at the EPS 500 millibar height anomalies. On the left here, I have Thursday, the 12th of December, 2024. And on the right, I have the EPS 500 millibar height anomaly forecast for Friday, the 13th. Friday the 13th is coming up next Friday. Our superstitious nature will say, Friday the 13th, right? So let's look here on the left. What's happening here? What's happening on Thursday, the 12th of December, 2024? Look at the east again. It's got blue coloring, right? That indicates lower than normal height anomalies, lower than normal heights. And that is associated with colder air temperatures. You clearly see there's a huge upper level ridge over the North Atlantic next Thursday. See this brown shading indicates height anomalies 280 all the way up to anywhere up towards like 380 to 400 meters above normal. That's associated with upper level ridging across North Atlantic and milder conditions. You will also see some weak ridging across the Intermountain West, northward right to central Canada, south central Canada. And there's another trough there next Thursday off the west coast into British Columbia there. Now over here on the right, we see what happens for Friday the 13th. If you have any travel plans, I know the holidays are getting closer. Generally, you have orange coloring all the way from central U.S., the Midwest, Ohio Valley, Tennessee Valley to the East Coast. We still have a fairly strong upper level high situated across the North Atlantic. You see these brown colors, those heights are well above normal, above the normal climatology heights. The climatological database here, I believe, is 1991 to 2020. Anyway, you've got warmer, higher than normal heights moving right in. This trough is going to move off. We're still going to have some fairly chilly conditions hanging on across the immediate East Coast next Friday the 13th. But then we have milder air coming in once again. You clearly see the blue shading now across Western Canada. That trough has moved ashore and it extends southward all the way off Puget Sound, Washington, into Washington State, Oregon, Idaho, and northwestern Montana. What are the EPS temperature anomalies looking like? This is Thursday, 12 December. This is this was the initialization of the 00Z run here today, 6 December 2024, the EPS and the European ensemble. Look how below normal things are across the southeast Florida up to the mid-Atlantic. And look how above normal this maroon and red coloring is across the western high plains right up to western Canada. But what happens is this cold area, this graphic here on the right for the EPS temp anomalies, you still have rather chilly air in place from Virginia southward to the Florida Panhandle. next Friday the 13th, but you're starting to see some of this warmer air, this maroon coloring, spread east towards the Midwest by next Friday the 13th. Here's the Jeff's 500 millibar height anomaly forecast. This is Thursday the 12th on the left. This is Friday the 13th on the right. Okay. So you clearly see a trough, an upper level cold core low there, situated over southeast Hudson Bay, extending southeastward towards southeastern Canada. See some, this doesn't look as strong, right? Let me go back. So the EPS looks stronger with the troughing on Thursday the 13th of December, whereas the Jeff's is not as strong. In other words, this trough doesn't extend as far downward and southward into the mid-Atlantic. So we'll have to see which one's right. No matter how you slice it, EPS or the Jeff's models, you see this anomalous ridging going on south of Greenland across the North Atlantic. And then over here on the right, we see again that orange coloring infiltrating from the Midwest, infiltrating into the East Coast, and you have above normal heights again across that area. So I imagine, Thursday and Friday are going to be fairly chilly and cold, but across the east, but then we're going to have another moderating trend of these temperatures. Here is the Jeff's temperature anomalies. I'm showing those now here on the left. We have Thursday, the 12th of December, below normal. Same locations, mid-Atlantic to the southeast, all the way to the Gulf Coast, all the way up to New England. And then over here on the right, we show the Jeff's temperature anomalies. These are in degrees Celsius, by the way, just generally mid-Atlantic southward towards the Florida Panhandle. And then things really start warming up across Iowa, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, the Dakotas, eastern Montana, and Wyoming. All right, so now let's continue moving forward. Let's look at the CFS temperature anomalies, the climate forecast system, okay? How do things look as we head towards Christmas, let's say? Now, we're looking at the NOAA. This is, again, the CFS, Climate Forecasting System, version 2. These are the 2-meter temperature forecast anomalies in degrees Celsius. This is a lagged average of the last 20 ensembles. And the time period we're looking at here on the left is from the 11th of December to the 21st of December, 2024. Days 5 to 15. We see the colder than normal temperatures across confined to Canada, central Canada in the green coloring here. And everywhere else in the U.S. in the lower 48, you got orange to yellow coloring, right? So that generally indicates slightly above normal temperatures, 1 to 2 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures, above normal across a large chunk of the U.S. through the 21st of December. Now over here on the right on the CFS weeklies, this extends from 16 December to 26 December on the right. Not much change. I mean, there really isn't much change to this forecast temperature anomalies here. We have 1 to 2 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures extending from west coast to east coast here. So this, to me, just judging by looking at this, it looks like a pretty much mild Pacific flow across the United States coming up through the 26th of December. Outside of occasional troughs which come in and they'll drop the temperature and then you'll get milder again. What about the CFS temp anomalies as we continue on here? Now let's go a little bit further now. We're going to look at 5 January 2025 to 15 January 2025 on the left. Notice this difference. The graphic here on the right was 16 to 26 December, fairly mild across much of the United States in the orange color. Over here on the left, the forecast for CFS, from the CFS weeklies for the 5th of January, the 15th of January 2025. Look at this. This has changed drastically, everybody. Southeastern Canada, upper Midwest, Tennessee Valley, Mid-Atlantic, up to New England, all expected to be below normal. A transition to colder than normal conditions. 5 to 15 January. Over here on the right, that cold signal just gets stronger. From the 10th of January to the 20th of January, look at how below normal east of the Rockies things are. And, we're going all the way down the Gulf Coast with this too. This isn't just a quick hitting, shot of cold air swinging from the Midwest, Mid-Atlantic, New England, and out to sea. This is all the way down to the Gulf Coast. Mildest temperatures generally remaining over the desert Southwest, as well as California. Now, if we look at the monthly for the CFS earlier today, look at this for January. This is the potential, purple is the coldest temperatures, the coldest anomalies are in purple. Indiana, Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin. This would be well below normal. We're talking 9 to 11 degrees Celsius below normal. And we're talking in the month of January where your average temperatures usually reach their minimum point. So this would be pretty good cold air, and then that extends all the way to the mid-Atlantic up to New England. You don't see much warmth here, do you? Let's continue. Let's look at now the European, the EPS, extended temp anomalies. Now this over here on the left, this just came out. And this is the forecast. This is valid on the left for the 8th of January, 2025. And it's matching up with the CFS. Look at the blue coloring and where it's at. Mid-Atlantic, generally New England, Ohio Valley, fairly close. Over here on the right, this is the forecast for 14 January 2025 based on the latest EPS extended temp anomalies. And look at this. I mean, look at this. So we very well could be seeing a turn to a colder situation in early January. This is a real caveat, okay? This could result in much colder air getting into the U.S., but first we got to get there, right? First it has to happen. So I've noticed the last couple days, examining the models, I've got GFS on the left, I've got European in the center, I've got the Jeffs on the right. These three different models. We are looking at the 10 millibar temperatures. We're looking at the temperatures and anomalies, all right? Now, the timestamps are the same for all three of these models. I wanted to show you a comparison, all right? So this is 18 December in all three pictures you're seeing, all three models. Green coloring indicates colder stratospheric temperatures. This white and this like maroonish color indicate much above normal or warming temperatures in the stratosphere. So now let me get my pen out here. Let me get my pen. All right, so pay attention to this. I hope you can see it. Geez, I'm in red on this. Maybe I need to change the color here. Hang on, give me a minute. Pay attention. I'm going to put it in black. Pay attention to this. Pay attention to this. Because that is, all these models are in agreement. There's some type of stratospheric warming occurring on the 18th of December. But really, potential stratospheric warming between 15 and 20 December. This could have huge consequences to our weather in January. It really could. If you get a major sudden stratospheric warming event, warming temperatures in the stratosphere generally tends to weaken the stratospheric polar vortex over time. And that vortex can then either be displaced off the North Pole, can split into two vortices, sometimes three, or you just result in more of an elongation or stretching of that stratospheric polar vortex. But regardless, you're going to get some effect if this stratospheric warming were to occur. Now, where are we at today? We're on the 6th of December, right? 6th. We still have some time here to see if this verifies. Well, it's not like we're 2 days out from this, right? So this, I'm going to put a question mark to, because this could have huge consequences on the weather for us in the United States in January, if we get the stratospheric warming. So I really wanted to show you the comparisons of all three models here. You clearly see on the GFS it's much stronger. The GFS is indicating a stronger stratospheric warming than the other two models. But let's just keep an eye on them. All right, so now let's get to my final thoughts in tonight's video. First things first, let's just be honest here. Will La Nina ever officially be declared? I mean, we are now in early December. Usually with El Nino or La Nina, if it's going to happen, it usually happens by this point. And yes, we looked at the sea surface temperature anomalies. Yep, we did. Right? We looked at these. Let me go back to them. Wow, I have to go way back. Let me go back to them. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you see the blue coloring in the eastern and central equatorial areas of the Pacific, okay? So we are running below normal in that blue shading, that blue coloring, but we still haven't reached it yet, technically, to meet the classification. NOAA has gone from a 70% chance down to a 57% chance of it developing. Now, if it does develop, it's going to be weak at best this winter. If it does not develop, if the signal is it doesn't develop and we're ENSO neutral, now we have a whole new ball game here. All right, it's a whole new ball game. It's kind of like if you're a football team, right, and you're expecting to have to play against a certain quarterback. Your preparations are way different than, let's say, you face a quarterback that's not so good. Or let's say you're preparing for a really good quarterback to face that quarterback, and then the game day comes and the quarterback had a last minute injury, and now you're like, wait a minute, this could be a different result, right? To that game, to that football game. It's the same in weather. If we don't get the La Nina to develop and it stays ENSO neutral, it's like losing that number one quarterback. And now, on game day, you have a real shot to win. The whole game changes, right? Same thing with the atmosphere. This La Nina has not been officially declared by NOAA yet. Now, we definitely have seen the frigid start to December, which is quite odd, frankly. I mean, we've had such mild Decembers in the East. Not to say this December won't be mild, because it could change, right? Just through the first 5 days, actually 6 days now, it's been pretty doggone cold. But we do expect that colder pattern to be replaced by a more progressive pattern. What do I mean by progressive? That means that we're going to have a situation where, let's say you're at this black X here, right? You're going to have ridges, you're going to have troughs, you're going to have a ridge again, trough, and so on. Now, this time of year, the jet stream is fairly strong, the jet stream wind. So it pushes these, I'll put this as an R for ridge and a T for trough. This alternating pattern of troughs and ridges move west to east fairly quickly, and that results in varying, temperature swings. When you're under the ridge, I'm going to put a W. Whenever you see the letter R, that's a ridge, and I'm going to put a W for warmer temperatures. Whenever you're in the trough, I'm going to put a letter C next to T, and that's colder temperatures in a trough. So as you can see, when ridges come overhead, you have warmer conditions. When the troughs come overhead, you get colder conditions, and so on. It repeats. So progressive pattern means fast-moving ridges and troughs in the westerly wind belt. Milder temps will occur starting this Sunday, the 8th of December, for the mid-Atlantic. We'll have those mild temps continue into Wednesday, the 11th of December. And then we're going to see periods of rain occurring from Monday, the 9th of December, right to Wednesday, the 11th of December. I really believe more localized here to Hampton Roads. The heaviest rain will occur on Wednesday, the 11th of December. At least that's the way it looks right now. And we could get a pretty good beneficial rain here, greater than 1 inch of rain for Hampton Roads, Virginia cities on Wednesday, the 11th of December. So that's good news. So we'll see how that all turns out. But that's going to be ahead of the next Arctic cold front, which will come through late Wednesday, the 11th, and flip the winds around to the north and northwest, and temps will drop like a rock on between Wednesday for the high, and the high Wednesday 60, 61, dropping down to highs in the 40s on Thursday, the 12th. So colder late Wednesday, the 11th, right on through Friday, the 13th. But then we see milder temps come back in. Saturday, the 14th of December through Monday, the 16th of December. And then I was looking at the 12Z data today, and then a trough comes in again the 17th of December on Tuesday, the 17th, and drops the temps again. Again, it all comes down to this. Fast-moving troughs and ridges in a progressive pattern, which is going to result in wilder swings in temperature, ups and downs, ups and ridges and down temperatures and troughs. Now, as far as Christmas weather, it's just simply too far out to get specific. We're just too far out still. We're still, well over 2 weeks out from Christmas Day. It's really, your weather is really going to be dependent on, the position of the upper trough and upper ridge in relation to your location. Now, the longer range models are hinting at a more persistent colder pattern. It could occur as early as the last week of December into January. Early to middle January looks rather interesting because again, you're at your lowest temperature, climatological normal temperatures, right? And it's fairly cold, below normal temperatures. And if you get any kind of moisture overrunning that colder air at the surface, you could get wintry precip in the east in January. We'll just have to wait and see. The big wild card that I'm keeping an eye on is this potential sudden stratospheric warming event between 15th and the 20th of December. If that occurred, it could weaken the polar vortex in the stratosphere and could stack the cards to a colder early to middle January scenario. So we'll have to wait and watch to see what happens. All right, that wraps things up tonight. I'm so happy I was able to make this video tonight. I honestly didn't know if I was going to be able to get to it, but here I am, and I certainly hope you enjoyed it. I try my best, Hey, we all have stuff going on in our lives, and I try my best to make these as regular as possible, these videos, but sometimes obviously things come up. But I certainly hope you enjoyed tonight's presentation. You can follow me on X. You can follow me on X. You can follow me on the website. Just Google Spot on Weather Weebly. And I'm mainly focused on 7-day forecasts for Hampton Road cities. I don't do regional forecasting per se. I do more of localized Hampton Roads, but I do have a lot of great things on my website, Spot on Weather Weebly website. Past weather charts for the whole U.S. I have a lot of products on my website that include the whole United States. So even if you're watching from the West Coast or the Southern U.S., the Gulf Coast, New England, the Midwest, it doesn't matter. I have a lot of good information on my website, so please feel free to check that out. I do appreciate your watching the video tonight, and again, it's early, I know, but happy holidays to each and every one of you, and I do appreciate you subscribing to this channel. And again, thank you so much. Till next time, everybody, take care, and God bless everyone.